First story. 26F wayward, open relationship, would really appreciate help from this community. Sorry for the long post, and I appreciate anyone who takes the time to read it and help me. Chronological event. Me and my, now former, partner started seeing each other about 7 months ago. We first met online and spoke online for about a month, during which I fell in love with him. I had never met a person so respectful, caring and mature in communication before. After we got to meet up and we learned more about each other, I started to feel distant with him and the relationship, because I felt like there were certain characteristics I didn't appreciate about him. The more important one being that he gradually became inattentive, but I understand, he has ADHD and it's hard to overcome. I also know that despite any of my unfulfillment, I never should have been dishonest with him. Later in the relationship, we mutually agreed for the relationship to be an open relationship, with us being each other's main partner. The agreement regarding what boundaries were acceptable, e.g., whether physical intimacy would be acceptable and to what extent, fluctuated. Although most of the time it ended up on physical intimacy being acceptable. But the central part of the agreement was that whoever we liked, we should inform each other of their existence and the stage of the outside relationships. But I failed to honor that agreement and broke his trust. First meetup, I met someone, let's call him Greg, not a real name, who was married with children. After the first encounter, I met up with him 2 times. The first time was purely out of professional interest as the person had an interesting career, and back then I didn't know he was married yet. I informed my partner that I was meeting with him. It was just chatting. During this conversation I learned that he was married and we got along well and I liked him. But I tried denying it to myself, thinking nothing would happen. He's married right after this first meetup. Me and my partner went on a trip together, during which me and Greg stayed in touch quite frequently. I shared with him what I saw on the trip, and the conversation gradually began to get non-sexually flirtatious. Second meetup, we found out that the day after I got back from the trip would be the day that he'd leave my city. He's not based in my city. So we decided to meet up the night I got back from the trip, and this time I did not inform my partner of this. It was late when I got back from the trip, and I met up with him at 12 a.m. By this point, I knew that this could not have been strictly platonic. But I was hoping that we could just talk and nothing would happen, and because he would be leaving, all would come to an end. We talked on the balcony of the bar near where he was staying until 4 a.m.-ish, during which he tried to kiss me but I said no. After that, we couldn't stand the mosquitoes anymore. So we went back to his room. I know I should have just left. Mosquitoes could have been the perfect reason. It took a little while before things finally got physically intimate. We did not have sex, but we made out. I stayed till checkout the next morning, had breakfast, and left. Later correspondence. After this, he suggested that we would communicate via email instead of social media, and write longer letters. I agreed. After that, we started exchanging emails about 3 times a day, usually 1 long and 2 short. Most of it would be about regular daily life and thoughts that I did not share with my partner, and it would also touch on some thoughts related to physical intimacy. During this, I was having a hard time interacting with my partner, especially giving and receiving physical intimacy, because I knew I was doing something wrong. It took a week before my partner found something that I wrote to myself related to this entire experience, and asked me what it was about. He went through my phone, which I understand completely, and found out about this entire event. My partner broke up with me, reasonably so, and regressed our relationship to a status where we have no obligations to each other, and are not each other's main partner anymore. But he is still very supportive of me trying to change and being surreally kind to me in the process, despite him feeling extremely hurt. My background. Prior to this, I had cheated on one of my ex-partners. I kissed his friend, which he found out after we broke up and his friend confessed to him, and I am now dead to him. I had also been cheated on in my last relationship, where my ex-partner was physically abusive, and also sexting other people and having sex outside of our relationship at the time. You would imagine that after I'd experienced that, I'd never be the perpetrator of this type of pain anymore. But I think I didn't even feel much pain in that situation. I just felt mostly numb. My thoughts? I feel like I've made so many incredibly wrong and evil decisions in this process, and I feel like I've shoved this reality that I'm just a terribly unkind person in my face, despite me having tried to make myself believe otherwise my entire life. I guess it's mainly twofold. First is with my partner. Seeing his reaction to the event, I feel extremely guilty that I had hurt him and caused him so much pain by lying to him about my whereabouts. Sharing aspects of my life that I should have been sharing with my partner, and being intimate with someone else without his knowledge. I was scared to tell him initially that I had feelings for a married person, because I was afraid he would judge me and leave me. But I still let this relationship develop, and I was still scared to tell my partner, to the point where I betrayed my partner fundamentally. Second is with Greg and his family. I failed to recognize that enabling and assisting infidelity is also unkind. Because even though I'm not directly obligated to protect his marriage, which was the excuse I tried to give myself, I'm essentially enabling him to hurt his family. And his family would experience the same pain as, if not worse than, my partners if they ever were to find out about this. I just feel really lost now. I don't understand why I keep engaging in infidelity. I know partly it's because I keep wanting to seek validation from others to an unhealthy extent. But how was the guilt at the time of engaging in things like this not enough to stop me? And also, in an open relationship, I could have just told my partner, but I didn't have the courage to. Instead, I chose to lie. I rationally understand now that truth is always better than lies, but I just find it hard to internalize it because I feel like I grew up with so many lies around me. And at moments when I wanted to tell the truth, such as initially when I wanted to tell my partner that I had feelings for Greg, I was scared that I'd hurt him and/or he'd abandon me, so I chose not to. Yet I chose to keep engaging in deceptive behaviors. Part of me had this optimism bias both times when I engaged in infidelity. Like if they never knew, then it wouldn't hurt them and everything would be okay. I know it's wrong now. Maybe I just need people to repeatedly tell me that in very strong ways to completely break my previous beliefs. I feel like my decisions cost me one of the most precious and healthy relationships I've ever had in my life. And that's really painful. Not that I'm really in a place to talk about my pain, because I caused someone else more. I really want to be better, but I'm scared that I'll always be this weak and deceptive person I'd been. Part of me feels hopeful that through work I could become better. The other part of me feels hopeless, scared, and hates myself. Thinks that maybe this is just the nature of who I am, and is tempted to just give up. I feel really lost. Second story. Please, any advice would be so appreciated. My wife and I have been married for almost 6 years. We have a son together and I've been in my stepson's life since he was 4. I recently discovered my wife slept with our stepson's bio father after we had a fight. I confronted her only to be lied to, which resulted in me asking her to leave and saying some unkind things which our stepson overheard. She came back the next day, but our stepson has been staying with bio dad ever since. My wife misses our son, and I've told her that even though I hate his father, I would not interfere with her visiting our son until he was comfortable enough to come home. The only thing I've asked for is that she cuts unnecessary contact with bio dad, because I was close with him as well, and frankly I'm hurt by his actions too. Wife is basically refusing to even stop being friends with him. Says he's her only friend. And just threatens divorce anytime I mention how I can't be around him, and I'd prefer if she wasn't. If she wanted us to heal, She says every day that she doesn't want our marriage to fail, but I cannot just let him be a part of our life still, right? Is she just stringing me along until the divorce is pushed through? Am I unreasonable for asking this of her? I'm not a fan of ultimatums, but I feel this is deserved and that I cannot just live with her doing nothing different for my sake. Update. Anniversary rant for no one. Today's our 6-year anniversary. Every year until now we would wake up in each other's arms and thank God we had each other. Today I wake up alone, no kids, no joy, no warmth of my wife's embrace. Today for the first time I think it's easier to just be gone. Why was our family so easy to toss aside? Why was it so easy to hurt me like this? Why did you run instead of just fucking talking to me? Why did you let it go so far before you let me know how you really felt? I'll spend every day of the rest of my life asking how this happened. I'll watch my kids grow from a distance wishing I was the one to see them come home every day. I'll take all the pain, all the suffering you caused and still somehow be the bad guy. I wish we never fucking met. I wish God would give me the ability to go back 10 years and stay home instead of going out to meet you. I hope you're happy with the life you built upon the ashes of mine. I hope one day you look back and realize that you had a husband that loved you unconditionally, and all he wanted was for you to love him back. Third story. WP upset about reading about infidelity. We finally started reading the books I've wanted to read to learn and move on from what happened. We're 4 months post D-Day. That's progress and I'm happy about it. My WP started reading How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair. Well, I started Why Can't You Read My Mind? After about 15 minutes of reading silently next to each other we stopped. My WP won't talk to me, won't look at me, and doesn't want to be near me right now. It hurts a lot that it feels like my WP is reading them begrudgingly, not because they want to understand and learn. Has anyone else had this kind of experience? Any and all thoughts are welcome. Update. This may be the end for us, and it hurts so bad. Today I told WP I wanted her out of our apartment by next weekend. I think that was a little harsh, but it conveys my sentiment. I feel so shitty. I wanted nothing more than to stay together. It felt like she kept prioritizing her emotions over me though, and I just couldn't anymore. She had a one-night stand with a bartender at a hotel on a business trip 1 month before our destination wedding celebration. She told me about it on her own 2 weeks before our wedding celebration. And I wanted her the next time she had a business trip to the same location. A couple weeks after our wedding celebration, she insisted she go back to the same hotel because it was well located. Gave her points, and she wanted to ask the bartender if his feelings for her were genuine. I said I was uncomfortable with it, but she essentially told me she had to know how he felt about her, and that was non-negotiable for her. She was seduced by someone who sleeps around and flirts for his job, but it made her feel so good that she questions still if she's missing out on a relationship where that feeling lasts forever. It feels horrible to know that she had stronger romantic feelings for this bartender than she ever has for me. And I feel like I should have known then that she wasn't truly invested in our relationship. She still has a picture of him too. I said I didn't want that, and again she told me that was non-negotiable. I now realize that she wants complete freedom and won't respect my boundaries. Boundaries is a trigger word for her. She still tells me that she's not attracted to me because I'm not alpha enough. I'm an introverted, quiet, smart, loyal guy. I've prioritized what she wants because she's very alpha and that's fine with me. But now I realize she doesn't view me as the type of person she wants to be with. Especially after her one night stand, it hurts so much to hear her essentially tell me that I need to change, become more alpha, in order for her to want to be with me. And on top of that she tells me she doesn't even know if I'm capable of becoming the person she wants. It feels like deep down she is trying to decide if she's willing to settle for me or not. I'm devastated since we've been together for 11 years. No kids though, and I thought she was my forever person. Fourth story. Cheating wife. I have been with my wife for 18 years. We were high school sweethearts. So a while ago my wife started acting weird around me. Her phone always on her and on silent, working strange hours when she never used to, wanting to have sex much more often. One Sunday afternoon we were having a nap and headphones started ringing. She suddenly jumped up and ran outside to answer the call. I stood up and went to the nearest window from where she was and heard her talking to someone about the previous evening, and how his evening went further. She had told me she had some drinks with her girlfriend that evening before she came home. I knew it was a guy on the phone with her and not her girlfriend. I confronted her, and she said that an estate agent called her about a property. But that was absolutely not true as I heard the conversation by the window. She was angry that I was questioning her and asked why I don't trust her. The next day I bought an Android phone and set it up. I set the phone to share location on Google Maps with my phone. I was watching her movements for about 3 weeks. I started to notice a pattern in lunchtimes where she would go to a certain address. I started calling her when she was at the address but would never answer, and would call me back after about an hour saying she was in the kitchen at work making her lunch, and her phone was at her desk. That was almost always the excuse. I then decided one day to get a rental car and camp in the street over lunchtime and see what happens. Sure enough, she arrived at the house like clockwork. Parked and a guy comes out with only a short on. They kiss and hug before he pulled her inside. Me taking a nice video at the time. That evening I confront her again, and she is all up in arms about me not trusting her after being together for 18 years. I sat her down and showed her a screenshot of the house from Street View, and she immediately starts shaking. I asked her whose house it was and she said she has no idea, and what am I trying to accomplish? I gave her a last chance to admit she was cheating on me, but she just would not spill the beans. I then showed her the video and she totally freaked out that I spied on her. After some minutes she started breaking down and started apologizing and said she didn't know why she did it. It ended up being a colleague from her previous job, so I suspect there was an affair long before I found out. I filed for divorce the next day.